Hi, I'm Clinton Jacobs, and you are watching from the Cape with Bass, hosted by Daniel Peterson.
Good day, everybody. Today we're here with great bass player Clinton Jacobs. Clinton, can you tell us what your first musical experience was?
I think my first musical experience, to be honest with you, was growing up in my family home.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad used to listen to both. It was two different worlds, if I could put it like that, because my mom used to listen to Manhattans, Percy Sledge, the Bee Gees, those kind of music. And that's like the party music, you know.
Yeah.
When there's something, you listen to your specials. And my dad used to listen to Bob Marley, you know. So growing up for me, I would say that was my first musical experience, because it somehow just went into my system, because I would hear that music on like a weekly to a weekend, like weekend to weekend. I would listen to those kind of music, and that was obviously due to the circumstances, but little did they know that I was actually groomed that way, because the music was entering my brain, my ears. And what I did in that time, it's so funny, because I would then memorize everything. You know, that's how music is. The power of music is that, you know, once you listen to something, it sometimes it tends to stick. You know, it stuck with me, and that was how I basically was groomed. And I think that was, to be honest with you, my first musical experience, because then not long after that, like, you know, fast forwarding, I then joined a boy band where I was voted into that band, you know, because I used to hang out with these guys, and they used to sing, the three guys, and they were called the YMC, Young Men for Christ. And somehow when they sing, I so happen to remember some of the stuff, you know, and they used to love singing Boys to Men. And that's where I was voted in, and they could hear that whenever they sing like the some of these.
Sorry. You say you were voted in. Was this a competition, or what has happened?
To be honest, I started hanging out with him because one of the guys was in school with me.
Okay.
And that's how we started, you know, connecting, and he started inviting me over to his side of Hanover Park.
Okay.
So that's where I started hanging out in a different area, or in Hanover Park, but just a different side of Hanover Park. And then obviously him introducing me to them, and that's where whenever they used to sing do 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 shoot shoot,
The Still of the Night.
Yes, that was like the famous a cappella songs. And when they sing it, I would you know, and didn't even know the words here and there, but yet I knew the tune, I knew where to go. And to them it was like, wow, this guy knows, you know, like how to sing the song with us, whatever. And then the alto, the guy that used to sing alto, he said, hey, what do you guys think about having him part of the team, you know? Let's vote. It was so funny. We were hanging out, and they voted me into the band. And you know, since then I started hanging out with him. We practiced a lot every day, you know, listening to Boyz II Men and all these other guys, Take Six. And from there, we started singing at churches, different churches. And that time, I used to belong to the AFM, and some of them as well. And AFM used to have like these, conferences, you know, the psalm trek. And then everywhere where there's a psalm trek, we would then, they would have us sing at this thing. And, you know,
you were quite famous.
The group, singing all these a cappella songs. But I think, it started back then when I grew up in my family home, and that's when my first musical experience.
Wow. Interesting, man. Interesting. Can you tell me what drew you to the bass? What's the story there?
To be honest, I actually chose bass as an escape instrument, to be honest.
Okay.
My family is quite musical. My dad plays a bit of guitar, and he's a bass singer, you know, with a large stem. And then my uncles, cousins, they all play. But music kind of came late for me, I would say. But my first inspiration was Chadley Gower.
Okay.
We used to be on the same school, high school, and he was obviously a few grades higher. But a friend that knew him better back then introduced us to Chadley. And we used to hang out at this house, which I'm also grateful for, because there was a lot of people that allowed us as youngsters to just come there. You know, oral waar hulle allow vir die kinders om net so, you know, nie rond sit nie, but I'm grateful for them because they opened their house to us as youngsters, and they had their church's instruments there. And I think that was also the developing stages. And that's where Chadley Gower eventually started hanging with us as well. And I know some of the things that he did. There's a song of Kirk Franklin, da-da-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da, where the bass player starts that song off with. And he played, and he played those
Patience
chords.
Kind. Was that so?
He played those chords, and I was like, this guy, it sounds like a keyboard playing, because he was playing those full chords. And I didn't know much, but that inspired me. And I think I looked at it like, there's only 4 strings on this thing. I can probably start playing it quick, So that's what happened.
Four strings.
Yeah, there was 4 strings. And I was like, oh, this is actually nice. And I know I used to invite Chadley to different places. Like I invited to my church that I used to be at. And when we had rehearsals, I had him there. And I had to practice, but then I just wanted him more to play. So then they were like, and I was like, I don't know how, but can we ask him to play it? I just wanted him to play. So I think he's probably my first inspiration when it came to bass playing before I met everybody else.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting, man.
Yeah.
Tell me, any musical education? Did you go to Chadley? What's the story there?
No. I would say I just grew up like a lot of other musicians, not having, or for me, I'm speaking of myself now, not having that privilege of going to any music school or anything. One thing that I've got to know is that I started playing by ear, because if I think back of how my first musical experience started was, listening to by ear and then, singing what I heard.
Yeah.
And the same with the bass guitar. My experience through the education was not really there, it was very limited because I didn't have DVDs or CDs or this. I remember listening to if I'm correct, Sammy Weber and the guys.
Yeah.
When I had that album, it's like watching Disney. You see all this colorful stuff and you're like, these people are like next level. And when I listened to that album, that was like, when Sammy played that solo on there, that slap solo, that was so colorful and it was amazing. And I think that was probably one of the first things that I had, just training myself. But I could never get close to that because I told myself it would probably take me years to get to that level, which, it happens. But I've never gone to any music school or anything. It was all just by ear, everything that I do.
Wow, interesting. Tell me about the bands that you played for, or are there any albums that you played on? Or?
The bands that I played with, while coming eventually, growing further into the music, I was invited to meet Jonathan. And I didn't see it like that, but a good friend of mine, Llewellyn Simons.
Who's Jonathan Rubin?
Yeah,
okay.
Jonathan Rubin. So Llewellyn Simons introduced me, and this is now how I never knew that he was going to introduce me to Jonathan. He just told me to go with him. And that's where we went to Jonathan's church and introduced, because I heard about Jonathan, this great bass player in Howard Park, and I've never seen him before. And Llewellyn invited me there, and I met Jonathan, and I think since then, after meeting Jonathan, we had this instant connection. And from there, I think things just grew between us, as friends, and also the trust that he had in me. So I think playing with bands, he was probably the first, I think, that's now big in the industry. Back then, he also started off with his band and things. So I just moved with him at the time and still learning. But then I think he was one of the first guys. And then after the trust came, with him telling me to stop playing in his band, I played with him. And then he allowed me to also play with some of the guys like Patrick Duncan and then Julius Schulz. When they were here at the time, we had a couple of concerts, and then I was able to play there.
Wow.
Yeah, and then with any albums and stuff, I think on Jonathan's first album, I had to be the bass vocalist on there. So I didn't play on there, but I had the opportunity to sing on there. Yeah. So bass vocals I did on there, and then I know that at our my current church where I'm at, Victory Outreach Cape Town, we've released a couple of original songs, and that's where I'm a part of playing bass.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Clint, can you tell me about the gear that you have? You have very nice gear. Yeah.
Yeah. So currently, as you can see, I'm sitting with sound gear, Ibanez, and this guitar is very special to me because I was blessed with it. I was given it. It was given to me as a Christmas gift.
Wow.
Jonathan Rubain gave me this guitar.
Wow.
One day we were at the concert, and it was a Christmas concert with when Patrick Duncan was here. And then I remember we were all in one vehicle. We were driving in one vehicle, and it somehow happened where Jonathan basically spoke to Patrick, and I don't know how the guitar came into that conversation. And then he told Patrick that, this is Clint's guitar. I'm giving it to him as a gift. And I was like, well, I was blown away. So yeah, this is a Ibanez that I love very dearly because of, just how special this guitar is to me. And I've had it for now, I think about 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then as you can see here, I have a chord 5-string that's active. It's actually the church's bass,
Okay.
but I also love it. I think my first bass was a chord that was a 5-string G series that I had. That guitar is no longer in the picture, so it's only between these two guitars. But whatever I choose, it would always be the 5-string Ibanez that I have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting, man. Clint, do you have any advice for young up-and-coming bass players and musicians out there?
To be honest, if I could be honest and say that one thing about coming up in the music as a bass player would be to find your sound. Find your sound, and just if I could speak about myself again, my challenge was I got lost when coming up with music because I always thought of who's better than me. I always had this thing of, if ever I see another bass player in another setting where I'm at, and then it would already allow me just to shrink back, and I would just, get this whole thing over me where I forget my notes, I would forget what to play because I'm so focused on what are they going to think about what I know and what I can play. So I would just encourage, whoever's coming up in playing bass, it's just to be unique, whatever you play, whether it's a cover, make it your own. You don't want to sound exactly like the next person, but you also want to find your own sound. And I think that's one of the things that I've so far in the music is nobody has ever told me who I sound like. So for me that's a good thing, because that means I'm still making whatever I play, I make it my own. Whether I'm a little too much or a little less, at least I know I'm bringing my own flavor to it. So my main thing for any upcoming bass player is just to find your sound.
Oh. Clint, thank you so much for making time for me, for making time for From the Cape to the Bass. Godspeed on your journey, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So thanks for having me.
All good.
Thank you for liking and sharing this
this video with your fellow bass community. Please follow From the Cape with Bass on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you so much.